Hello, welcome to day 4 of 100 days of YouTube videos. Good grief, day 4. Where's the time gone? Just 96 left to go. Anyway, what are we talking about today, Gavin? Well, we're going to talk today about the challenge of selling into IT. Now, a lot of us in the tech space will spend a lot of time selling our services into the IT department, particularly if we're in infrastructure, if we're in telecoms, if we are in database software, if we're in cloud. There are a bunch of us who sit in kind of MarTech or pure SaaS. It doesn't even need to sort of touch IT. It's kind of that shadow IT area, but a lot of us will spend a lot of time trying to sell into IT. And while it can be very lucrative, there's kind of like a bunch of challenges with selling into IT that we as sellers kind of need to be kind of really cognizant of. So the first one is fundamentally IT is a cost center within a business, right? Anything that can be seen or anything can be run as a shared service across multiple business units of an organization. For example, if you go to like a large organization like a Siemens or a BP or a UBS, their IT business typically will run across all the different pillars of those organizations' business. Any business you can do that, any function you can do that with, like HR, like finance, is typically seen as a cost center. So it draws money from the profitability of the business. The more you spend there, the less profitable what you sell is. Now, there are obviously parts of the business that are cash generators, but IT is definitely a cash consumer. Now, this is slightly different from when you're selling to technology companies and their product is IT, and they invest in the product and they buy technology solutions to do that. That's slightly different. But for a lot of traditional businesses, IT is a cost center. So this means they have a budget, right? Good, bad, or indifferent. This means they have a budget. And as sellers, we're often taught to qualify, do you have budget? What's your budget? Who's your budget holder? So on and so forth. But the challenge with budgets is it means that the preset amount of money has been defined. So typically, your buyer is trying to manage that budget to make sure they don't go over it. And the last thing they want to do, even if they think it's going to be really good for them, the last thing they want to do is actually go over that budget. It's going to be hard for them to get it signed off. It's going to be painful for them as individuals. It's going to be painful for you as a seller. It's going to be time consuming. So where there are budgets involved, yes, if there's budget for a project, it's a good thing, but it also means the budget's got to be met. And if they have a budget, they're spending it on other stuff, right? So 80% as a, kind of finger in the air, typically 80% of an IT organization's budget is spent just keeping the lights on, like running the servers, running the software, running the legacy tech that they've got there. And innovation is typically just it's a pipe dream. It's an afterthought. It's something that the CIO or the CTO or someone in the boardroom will talk about. But then when you get back down to kind of day to day, they've got to feed and water servers. They've got to kind of manage what they're doing within the limitations. They've got kind of legacy monolithic software that underpins the business, that if it breaks, the whole world's going to go to shit. So a lot of time and energy goes on to that space. So if you're coming in with something that's innovative, that something's new, that something that's going to be transformative, you've got a journey to go on. You're almost better actually looking at the challenge, the tech debt challenge, the kind of monolithic stuff, thinking about how can I make that just a little bit easier. And actually, I worked for a business for a while that had a real niche in mainframes. Yes, people still have them. Not so much in the UK, but definitely in America and across Europe. People still run IBM mainframes, and there's a lot of money in keeping those things going. So it's kind of there's money in old stuff. But if you're selling into IT and selling innovation, then that's it's sexy and it's sparkling, it's new. Particularly, you'll find this with AI, right? Everyone wants to, how do we leverage Gen AI to steal a march on the market? Well, it's difficult, and the people don't have a lot of time to spend on it because they're doing other things. They're keeping the lights on. IT people also have like their own language, basically. and different different parts of the IT department, whether it's telecoms, whether it's infrastructure, whether it's software development, have their own language. There's the whole DevOps movement built around the kind of the agile approach to software development and running an IT organization. And learning that language is, particularly if you're not from that background, it's difficult. And you need to make the sales engineer your best friend. You need to invest some of your own time into self-educating. One of the things I talk a lot about with my clients is business acumen. So really understanding the business, the metrics, the trends of my clients' customers, monitoring them and understanding them and learning to talk in their language. If you're selling to IT people, if you're selling to developers, if you're selling to cloud architects, you need to learn their language. You need to understand the most common products, most common SKUs in AWS. You need to be familiar with that. Not just so that you can like hold a conversation with some of these folks, but so that you can spot opportunities when they come through. So there's a real premium on learning to talk their language. But then the other big thing is, particularly with IT projects, with whether it's a in-source, outsource, migration, implementation, whatever it might be, the devil is in the detail. It's not just a Chrome plugin. It is not just a piece of SaaS software that you run through a browser that does all these kind of things. There is links and connections that's got to be made to the back end. There are legacy applications you've got to think about. And if I use a cloud migration as an example, because there was a big rush to the cloud, and now there's a lot of stuff that's still on-prem, and those cloud organizations, AWS, Microsoft Azure, Google, Oracle, more and more, these organizations, they are, selling compute and storage, leasing it basically in a really intelligent way and earning a fortune. But the growth that they're getting, the kind of the migration numbers that they want, they're hard to get those big migrations. It's much easier to get someone to start small, build something new in an AWS and watch it grow. If you're migrating a big database, a big application, there's lots of things to consider. And this is an example of a slide. I've nicked this from AWS. I don't think it's particularly privileged. It's a little bit old now. But it kind of optimistically shows the journey that an IT business would go on. So you start off over here with your stuff, your applications on prem, and your IT budget is full. You're running your legacy infrastructure, your tech debt here, you're running projects, and you've got a tiny bit of amounts of renovation. I think that's probably generous. And then the idea being you migrate everything to AWS or to Azure or whatever cloud service it might be. And that enables you to optimize the compute or the servers that you're running your applications on. So your infrastructure cost comes down. Sounds great. The reality is, if you're moving stuff from on-prem into AWS, Microsoft don't like it that much, and the licensing costs get a bit funky. Now, AWS, for example, talk about then moving off Microsoft's software stack once you get into the cloud and onto open source software, which doesn't have a licensing fee, doesn't have the premium associated to it. But then you've got to train your staff to use it. It's a different interface. Yes, there might be commonalities, but actually you're trying to get a bunch of people who are really happy working one way to work another. So you're selling change. You're selling change on a number of different levels. And then kind of the final piece comes down to rebuilding those applications when you get them in the cloud. So you build this big business case. It's kind of sort of two movements, one from on-prem into the cloud, and you save money by optimizing your infrastructure. Then you save money by optimizing your licensing. Then you save money by rebuilding these applications. Now, all of those things require your IT guys to run projects, to learn to do new things, to grapple with the intricacies of licensing, to then rebuild applications. So no matter how compelling a business case it might sound when you stack it up and you put it on a spreadsheet and you run it on paper, And you can say, look, I can save you 20%, and you can put that back into infrastructure. You can spend that on AI. No matter how compelling that might sound, a lot of your buyers in IT are going to be going, oh, this sounds like work. This sounds like I'm going to have to run two environments while we do the migration in case something goes wrong. This sounds like I'm going to have to spend weekends on calls while we do these changes, while my kids are out, swimming, riding bikes, and they're around. So some holidays coming up soon. I really want to go away, but I can't because I've got this great big migration to do. You're as powerful as a um, business benefit might look on paper. Like I think I've said before on this channel, so many business decisions are made based on emotions and have business cases backed into it, and you see that a lot in IT. You see that from ambitious CIOs who are trying to do something big and they will back a business case like this in, like a cloud migration is a classic. But vice versa, you see it from IT directors, IT managers, infrastructure directors, telecom managers who look at things and just like, that's just another project we don't need. Should we just kind of do something that's easy, something that saves us 5%, maybe change vendor, maybe buy a cheaper piece of hardware, use the tax benefits the UK's government, is offering at the moment around buying capital equipment. They look at other ways. So yeah, IT, incredibly lucrative, really can be transformational for the business, but it takes time. There is a lot of complexity, there's a lot of detail, there's a language you need to learn. And when you're talking to different stakeholders, not everyone's going to see it from that business benefits perspective. A lot of people are going to see it just as work. Right, I've gone on far too long. Hopefully that's helpful. That's day 4 done. I'm going to have a beer and I'll see you guys all tomorrow. Cheerio.